Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head down to Chile once again, and we're going to go to another brewery that I've never tried anything from before. Now, these guys are quite a well-established and well-respected brewery in the Chilean craft beer scene these days, but they are still a very small operation, almost completely family-run, but from what I understand, they do quite a wide variety of different styles, and they are all supposed to be pretty good. But the beer that we're going to have a look at from them today is quite an interesting one. It's a sub-style that I've never tried from a Chilean brewery before, but one this brewery are supposed to do really quite well. And the beer is also based on quite a well-known Chilean sweet treat. So yeah, a sweet treat that I have tried and that I do quite like, in fact. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to Chile, like I said. We're going to go to the Santiago area, which is kind of right in the middle of the country. Chile is of course very long and very skinny, but we're going to go just outside of the city a little bit to a place called Talagante, and that means that we're going to have a look at my first beer from Cervecería Szot. So this particular beer is called Manjarsh. It comes in at 10% ABV, it's an Imperial pastry stout, and this one is based on a Chilean kind of like, how would you say, sweet caramel sort of thing, called Manjarsh. So yeah, it's important to point out as well that Manjarsh is not like a brand, it is just the name of the treat. There's several companies do this, but yeah, it's basically this kind of caramelly thing, and you sort of bite off the corner and squeeze it out into your mouth, and yeah, it gives you this very kind of sweet sort of vanilla caramelly sort of thing. So yeah, it's really quite nice actually. It's basically the Chilean dulce de leche from what I understand. Of course, Chile had a lot of Italian immigrants, so it's quite understandable that they'd have something like this, and it is pretty nice. So try it for yourself and see what you think. But yeah, an Imperial pastry stout based on the Chilean version of dulce de leche Manjarsh. So let's crack on with this one then and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Cervecería Szot. This is the very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I mentioned earlier, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Chilean playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to very regular at the moment, of course, because I'm working my way through the Chilean beers that Amanda gave me. But do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Cervecería Szot for the first time, and I will apologise in advance for any bad Spanish pronunciations. I'm still getting used to the language, of course. But yeah, Cervecería Szot was founded back in 2006 in Talagante, just outside of Santiago in Chile, by husband and wife team Kevin Szot and Karen Evia. So Kevin Szot is originally from California, while Karen Evia is Chilean, and Kevin worked as a banking executive and travelled extensively for work, which eventually brought him to Chile back in 1987. But it was during his time there that he met Karen, and they were both big foodies, and this is what kind of eventually pushed them into having a relationship together. They just loved spending time with each other, trying lots of different foods. Later on they married, and they had their first two children in Chile. Then they moved to Miami, where their next son Martin was born, and then they went on to Puerto Rico, where their youngest Matthew was born. But eventually they decided to return to Chile in 2003, and when they returned they were inspired to start a brewery and capitalise on the growing Chilean craft beer scene at the time. So in the early days, Cervecería Szot was a very small operation, and they made their own deliveries to pubs around the region, but competing against the big macro breweries at the time proved to be quite tough. But their kind of community spirit and the quality of their beers and craftsmanship really began to resonate with their customers, and this helped them establish quite a strong reputation for themselves locally. But today, Cervecería Szot operates a small brew pub in Talagante where brewers can drink their beers. They do very nice pizzas apparently as well, and they've got quite a quiet and quite cool beer garden. If you look at the pictures of this, it actually looks just really chill and somewhere that I'd like to go. It's basically like a big wood cabin, and you've got a nice big grassy area and it's surrounded by trees. It looks pretty awesome, I have to say. But the brewery started off with just a small production capacity of about 9,000 litres of beer per month, which is around 200,000 litres of beer per year, and this allowed them to experiment with a variety of different styles and a number of seasonal releases, and they've basically gradually scaled up the brewery over the last few years. But their logo, which you can, I don't think you can really see, I know, you can see it over here, the logo, a very happy, playful dog, is intended to reflect the family's love for pets, and it's also meant to kind of symbolise like a welcoming atmosphere at the brewery and things like that as well. But yeah, it's also their brand identity and a symbol of community spirit, if you like, and companionship. So yeah, pretty cool in that sense. But the brewery, as we said, is a family-run operation. The eldest son, Martin, is the master brewer, and he oversees the social media things as well, whereas Matthew, the youngest son, is he studied gastronomy, and he was working with the brewery as well a couple of years ago. But the article we had was from a couple of years back, so he's probably more involved in the brewery than he was at the time. He was a bartender at that time. But yeah, as of November 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 80 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and like I said earlier, they do quite a wide variety of different styles, from New England hazy IPAs to big Imperial pastry stouts such as this one. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Cervecería Szot for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, or you can check out the Untappd page as well to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's go on then and have a wee look at this beer itself. So this one, I should point out as well, is a 473 milliliter can, one North American pint, I guess we could say. Not sure how common the 473s are in Chile, right enough. I think we've had quite a few of them, but we've also had a few 440s if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, there you can see the artwork on this one. It is of course intended to symbolise the Manjarsh with the kind of runny caramel, like I showed you this thing earlier here, which you can, it is quite flexible as you can see. But yeah, there is the Cervecería Szot brewery symbol, plain silver top on the can there too. And yeah, this is the other thing too, it tells you 10 GL or 10 degrees GL, which is the Chilean way, or I think the Latin American way of saying the alcohol percentage. So it's a 10% Imperial Stout, this one. But yeah, not much else to show you in terms of artwork and things like that on the label here. The other thing that Amanda said we should point out is that this one contains lactose and also wheat in the malt base. So yeah, big thank you as well to Amanda for compiling the notes for this video and also for bringing the beer. It was her dad actually that picked this one up for her, so a big shout out to Christian as well in this one. But yeah, let's get the beer out into the glass then and see what we have. The Manjarsh, a 10% Imperial pastry stout from Cervecería Szot in Talagante in Chile. This one is a little bit excited, so I'm just being careful with it. There we go. But yeah, only a few bubbles escaping at the top there. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass then and see what we have. Yeah, that's about half of the beer out and into the glass for the moment. That should be enough for us to take a wee look at it. As you can see, the head is fighting to disappear quite quickly, but it's just got a nice ring around the edge of the glass, or if I would say a light fawn coloured head. But yeah, that's fading away very, very quickly, which is a bit surprising actually when this beer contains wheat, because usually wheat will help an Imperial Stout maintain its head a little bit longer. But yeah, you can see there's one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass there. A few coming up toward the surface there and just breaking the surface, and that ring is around the edge of the glass there too. If we shine the light through this one, it has got a little bit of that Pepsi Max, Coca-Cola coloured edge to it. But yeah, this one is actually pretty opaque, to be honest with you. So yeah, it looks nice, this. When it comes to Imperial Stouts, there's a couple of ways to play with this style, if you like. You know, you can do barrel aging, which is going to sacrifice a little bit of your mouthfeel but give you some lovely infused flavours. You can do a double mash, which is going to give you a very thick, sort of sticky mouthfeel. You can do a longer wort boil, which is going to give you quite complex and quite dry brown sugary characters, which are very nice. Or you can put adjuncts into the beer, which is going to make the beer lean in quite a particular way. And with Imperial pastry stouts, that is quite a popular way to go, as is the double mash. So we need to see exactly what they're doing with this particular beer, but they might well have just made an Imperial stout and put a bunch of Manjarsh in it. We'll just need to see. But yeah, the colour of this one, dark ebony rosewood. As I've mentioned to you many a time before, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. And yeah, that's quite difficult though to, when it comes to black beers, you know. I've only ever seen that done once or twice, but with black beers like Imperial Stouts and Imperial Porters, very, very difficult to affect their appearance with adjuncts. I've only ever seen it done with like beets, which was crazy. The beer had this kind of purple tint. That was Puasta in Estonia that did that. So yeah, appearance wise, nothing particularly surprising about this beer. We've seen this kind of stuff before with an Imperial Stout, so I think we can go on and have a little look at the aroma of this one and just see what it's all about. So yeah, right, okay, I'm going to say straight away, this one, it's got a little bit of there's quite a little bit of like red fruity character coming out of this one. I'm just worried, like, because sometimes you can get a wee bit of oxidation in some of these cans. I'm just a wee bit worried that that might have been the case here with how pungent the red fruit is, but hopefully not. It smells like this. I'm not too worried about it, I would point out as well, but this one, the first thing that jumps out of this beer at me is it's this kind of like Scottish English Christmas puddingy type quality. So yeah, it's fairly common when it comes to these Imperial pastry stouts, but with this one I was expecting a bit more of a kind of caramelly, brown sugary, fudgy type thing out of this one. Like that Manjarsh, for me at least, it's a little bit like liquid vanilla fudge. That's the way I would describe it. But yeah, aroma wise, it's pretty nice, to be honest with you. As I say, just a little bit worried that there could be a wee touch of oxidation to this one, but we'll need to see. But all in all, it is like a kind of Scottish English Christmas puddingy character that's coming out of this one. So yeah, let's just break it down then and see what we have, and we'll have a taste in a couple of minutes. So the backbone of this beer, you can smell, it's got a little bit of, there's a wee bit of a roasty, toasty, rye bready bread crust in there. That's quite minimal in fairness. Above that, you definitely get a little bit of a kind of more oily, a bit slightly drier rye bread, and then above that you've got some, how do you say, so you've got the nice dry rye bread in there, then you've got wholemeal brown bread as well, but above that you start to get all the kind of cakey layers that you would expect of an Imperial pastry stout. So yeah, for me, this one, it's my knees are getting old. I was playing football yesterday. For me, this one, there's a good little bit of chocolatey character to this one. So you've got chocolate sponge in there. So yeah, lovely chocolate spongy cake. And the chocolatey character in this one, it's maybe like 80-90% cocoa chocolate, so it's got quite a bit of that red fruity character to it, which you're going to get at those high percentage cocos. So yeah, lovely little bit of that, how would you say, yeah, lovely little bit of high percentage cocoa chocolate in there. The brown sugary notes in this one are quite subtle. I think this beer has had, I think it has had double mash, and it will obviously have had adjuncts put into it, because you can smell it's quite big and quite sticky. So yeah, you've got a good little bit of like treacle molasses in this one. There is a little bit, yeah, you've got treacle molasses in there, toasty caramel. Yeah, toasty caramel, treacle molasses. Yeah, toasty caramel, treacle molasses. Then you've also got, how would you say? Yeah, treacle molasses, sweet caramel, a bit of toasty brown sugar underneath there. There's a wee bit of a leathery brown sugar to this one as well, which is making me wonder, has there been a slightly longer wort boil with the beer? But yeah, under that, there's chocolate sponge, there's chocolate brownie, yeah, and there's a wee bit of nuttiness just kind of emanating from the malty side of this beer too. But all in all, it's quite chocolatey and quite cakey. I'm not getting too much in the way of the brown sugars, which isn't really what I expected with this beer. In all honesty, I really expected it to be very caramelly and very kind of fudgy and things like that. So yeah, it's quite interesting, I have to say that about it. On the, how do we say, on the yeasty side of things then, the yeasty character for me often comes out in the back of the nose. The yeasty character for me, it's rye bready, it's that Scottish English Christmas puddingy type thing, that big phenolic-y boozy kind of character. So there's a lot of that in there. And then yeah, you've got all of these yeah, you've got all of these, how would we say, yeah, big phenolic-y boozy kind of notes. We've got all of these kind of like rye bready, and it's almost like a caramel spongy character that's in there as well. So yeah, Scottish English Christmas pudding, bit of a caramelly sponge and a wee bit of a rye bready and bread crusty character to it. Goes together really nicely. I like how everything pieces together in this beer. Gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, that's the malty and yeasty side of this beer covered then. So let's go to the hoppy and fruity side of things with this one. So as I've said on the channel many a time before, when it comes to Imperial Stouts, these beers are not the most hop forward of styles, but it's always nice to have a little bit of hop in them just to diversify the flavour a little bit. And quite often with things like this, you know, Williamette, Bramling's Cross, what's the other one? There's another hop that can go into these quite nicely. It's really got it's gone right out of my head, but it's an American hop. But yeah, Williamette's a very good one to use in these kind of beers, and I think it's something like that that's been used in this beer. For me, there's a little bit of hoppy character to this one. You do get a little bit of green component to this beer, so there's a wee bit of earthiness in there. There's a little bit of a kind of herbally character, a wee bit of woodiness as well, but mostly it's quite floral and it's quite grassy. So yeah, the way that this one goes together is really quite nice in that sense. It has got that little bit of green component to it, and that is something that I do personally quite like in Imperial Stouts, generally speaking. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, with this one, as I said earlier, it's got quite a bit of red fruity character to it. So you've got lovely raisiny notes to it, lots of kind of plums. So yeah, raisiny notes, big plums. Definitely some pruny characters in there, a lot of fig as well. So yeah, raisins and figs are the mainstays of this one for me, but I'm also getting quite a little bit of blackcurrant and blackberries. So I think yeah, raisins, figs and blackberries for me are really jumping out of this beer. As I say, the aroma of this one, it's really very, very nice, but the thing that's sort of worrying me about it a little bit is just the sharpness of the red fruit, and that the brown sugary side of this one isn't too prominent. And one thing I will point out as well is, you know, it is classed as an Imperial Pastry Stout, this one, but Pastry Imperial Stout as they're calling it. This is a style that can always be a bit hit or miss for me. Some of them I really quite enjoy, but some of them, namely the ones that have that kind of granola and marzipan-y type flavour, I just don't really enjoy that much. So yeah, I'm curious to see what this one is going to be like actually. So yeah, these styles can be a bit of a hit or a miss for me, but I've enjoyed the Imperial Stouts that I've had from Chile so far, so hopefully this one fits into that category too. But yeah, we've been through the aroma. As I always say, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into things, but it is about time for us to try this one and just see what it's all about. So yeah, this one is the Manjarsh, a 10% Imperial Pastry Stout. based on the Manjarsh Chilean dulce de leche, if we can call it that, this big vanilla wet caramel, wet fudgy caramelly type thing. This beer comes to you from Cervecería Szot in Talagante near Santiago down in Chile. Let's get stuck into this one and see what it's all about. Slàinte, skål, cheers, salud. Oh yeah, it's fine. It's absolutely fine, this one. It must just be a little bit fruit forward in its aroma, but yeah, absolutely nothing wrong with the beer there. And I will say that this is one of the Imperial pastry stouts that I can get on board with. It's got enough of a kind of RIS, sort of export stouty type character to keep me interested in it. I would say it is quite nicely balanced, and I have noticed that we've reviewed a couple of Chilean stouts. I will say that that's one thing I do quite appreciate about the Chilean breweries, is that when it comes to a stout, they do keep that kind of that roasty backbone to these beers. I think there must be an opinion in Chile that if it's a stout, it has to have a roasty backbone, and I certainly appreciate that, because there's I enjoy an Imperial milk stout right enough, but I think I do miss the old school RISs and things. And yeah, this is an Imperial pastry stout, but it does still have that roasty, toasty backbone to it. So thumbs up to Cervecería Szot for this. I think this one is quite nice. So yeah, this beer, I'm going to say straight away, it gets a thumbs up from me. And I'll say that the Manjarsh flavour that's coming out of this, it's more of an aftertaste flavour than being right at the forefront of the beer. I think that's definitely fair to say about this one. Although in fairness, yeah, when you take this beer in, it is quite, you do get a good bit of the red fruit, and you do get a bit of a nice kind of like caramel, spongy, cakey quality, and then you get all the bread and stuff underneath, but that brown sugar does linger there. I think that's a fair way to describe how these flavours are going together. But yeah, it's an Imperial pastry stout that I can get on board with. Let's leave it at that for the moment, and go through the beer and break down the flavour as we very often do. So yeah, this one for me, if we go to the middle third of the palate, backbone of the beer, you've got a lovely kind of rye bready bread crust in there. It does have a wee bit of roasty toastiness to it, so yeah, you've got that roasty toasty side of thing to this one. So that's there in the backbone. As you move further forward, I should point out as well, that roasty toastiness isn't too aggressive, right? It does just give you that little bit of dryness into the aftertaste. So you've got that roasty toasty side of things in there. Further forward, you've got a wee bit of woody character to the beer as well, which is quite nice. And then, yeah, on top of that, I would say, yeah, on top of that, you've got a bit more of a kind of, almost like, there's a slightly crackery note to this one. I always get cracker in the malt base of beers. So you get roasty toasty, rye bready bread with a little bit of wood, layer of cracker, then you've got a more rye bready more of a rye bready layer out of this one, and it's quite a dense rye bready layer, and it does have a wee bit of sweetness to it, but it's also got a fair little bit of kind of oiliness and dryness to it as well. So yeah, that's quite interesting. The next layer up is definitely more of a kind of wholemeal brown bready kind of character. So yeah, it's got more of a wholemeal brown bready kind of character to it as well. And within those rye bready and wholemeal brown bready layers, it's got a little bit more of a, yeah, it's definitely got a little bit more of a nutty sort of note to it, which I think is quite nice as well. So yeah, I like the nutty side of this beer. And that just lingers there into the aftertaste as well. Above the kind of wholemeal brown bready layer, you start to get a kind of, there's definitely a more kind of chocolate spongy type note to this one. So yeah, the chocolate spongy character that's in this, it's quite, how do you say, it's quite dry in a sense. So yeah, the chocolate spongy layer in this one does give you a fair wee bit of dryness, but the next layer up you've got a more dense, like chocolate brownie, chocolate muffin type character to it. And as I've often said, sweeter flavours will come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours will come out further back. So yeah, you've got that chocolate muffiny, chocolate brownie kind of layer coming out of this one, and it's also it's definitely like more milky chocolate further forward, and then it's more maybe 70-80% cocoa chocolate further back. So yeah, maybe 30-40% cocoa chocolate further forward, 70-80% cocoa chocolate further back. Yeah. So yeah, the next layer up on that, the chocolatey side of this beer is quite nice, and that lingers there as well, but the next layer up is all about the kind of brown sugary side of things. So yeah, the brown sugary side of this beer, for me, there is a slightly like above the chocolate, there's a slightly toasty brown sugary layer to this one, but then in the middle of your palate you've got this kind of like oval shape there. And obviously the main component in this one is that sort of liquidy, vanilla fudgy Manjarsh type quality to it. That's definitely there. In the dead centre of your palate though, you've got a little bit of that treacly molasses kind of note coming out of the beer, which is of course the boozy side of this one. This one's 10% ABV, there's no hiding from that. So yeah, you've got, the brown sugars are quite complex. You've got that toasty, kind of crispy brown sugary layer. Then you've got a big layer of that sweet, liquidy, vanilla fudgy, caramelly Manjarsh. And then yeah, it's probably sitting on top of that actually. Maybe that's not part of the oval. Sitting on top of that, you've got a little kind of circle in the middle of your palate, which at the core is very concentrated treacle molasses, and then surrounding it, it's a bit more of a kind of oily, caramelly sort of thing. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together is quite nice in this one. I have to say that I think that this beer goes together really nicely. As I say, it's not overly sweet, this one, but I could say like maybe into the aftertaste, yeah, you're going to get a little bit of a kind of slightly sickly character of this one. It does get a little bit more nutty and kind of brown sugary, maybe like a hazelnutty, almondy type flavour that comes out into the aftertaste for this one. But that covers the middle third of your palate, and that is definitely the most complex part of this beer, that's for sure. So yeah, let's go to the back third of your palate then. As I've often said, the back third of your palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there. So you've got the rye bread in the base, the wholemeal brown bread above that, the sort of chocolate spongy character, then the more dense chocolate brownie kind of layer in there. So all of that's there. And if you go straight into the back third of your palate, you've got all the layers: the toasty bread crust, the Jacob's cream cracker, the rye bready layer, which feels a little bit lighter, taller, more airy and more dry. You can say the same about the wholemeal brown bready layer, which kind of sits above that. Then you've got the same with the chocolate spongy character, which is the next one up. And then yeah, you have the you've definitely got the more dense chocolate brownie, chocolate spongy character, and you can feel some of the Manjarsh layer, some of the toasty brown sugar creeps over the top of that, and some of the kind of more caramelly fudgy Manjarsh creeps over the top of that as well. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together in that sense, I think, is quite interesting. But above everything else, you've got the yeasty character coming out of this beer as well. So let's focus on that yeasty character for the moment. So yeah, the yeasty side of this beer is kind of similar to what I was explaining. I was picking up in the aroma. So at its core, it's got this how would you say, it's got this like Scottish English Christmas puddingy type quality to it, which, as I say, I really quite like. So you've got that Scottish English Christmas puddingy type quality coming out of this one. It's really kind of phenolic and really kind of fruity. As I used to say, my dad always liked a Christmas pudding for his birthday in February, so I got very familiar with Christmas pudding growing up. So yeah, you had that Christmas puddingy type note to it. As you go further out from that, it becomes a little bit more like a sort of caramel sponge cakey sort of thing. Then the very edge of that yeasty character is a little bit more along the lines of, yeah, it's a wee bit more along the lines of, how would we say, what would that be? It's a wee bit more along the lines of like a kind of toasty, bread crusty type note. Maybe just, you know, the charred edge of a cake that gets stuck to the bacon tray. That's probably a good way to describe it. And definitely, yeah, back third of your palate, the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of compresses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way that it goes together, I think, is really nice in this one. So yeah, malty yeasty side of this beer is really pretty damn good. So yeah, that gets a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, tempted to have a little taste of the Manjarsh as well while we do this review. So we'll finish the tasting bit off and maybe have a wee taste of the Manjarsh after we've done that. But yeah, let's go to the hoppy side of this beer then. The back corners of the palate, it's got a nice little bit of earthiness to it for sure. So yeah, a wee bit of earthiness in there. Then as you push further forward from that, it's got a little touch of woody character to it in there as well, but I'm pretty sure it's American hop in there. It's not Williamette, but there's another hop that's, the name of it's gone right out of my head, that's very popular in these Imperial Stouts. So yeah, there's a wee bit of woodiness in there, a wee bit of earthiness, but yeah, as you move further forward, I do get a tiny little bit of pine resiny character in there, which is quite interesting. Then as you move further forward, there's a little bit of floral aromaticity there. Then round the front curve of your palate, it's just a little bit lighter and more grassy, I would say, and it's got a wee touch of zestiness to it. So yeah, I think that covers the green component there. It's really quite nice hoppy character there. It could just be a little bit of Chinook or something that's in this, actually, come to think of it. Chinook would make sense with this beer. But let's go to the front third of your palate then and just round off with the fruity part of the beer. So yeah, fruity side of this beer then, or front third of your palate first. So yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your palate. You get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. Of course, you've got the rye bread, the wholemeal brown bread, the chocolate sponge, then the more chocolate brownie characters. Then you've got the same of that. You've got the same of that front third of your palate. The white bready bread crust, the cracker, rye bread, wholemeal brown bread, chocolate sponge, and you've got the chocolate kind of brownie sort of layer coming out of this one. And then a wee bit of this some of the smoother brown sugars do peak for there. You do get a little bit of toasty brown sugar. Then yeah, the smoother, more almost vanilla-y side of the Manjarsh is coming out there. Then you've got that nice oily bubble where the fruity, juicy character comes out of the beer as well. So yeah, let's have a wee look at that fruity bubble then. So we'll do that. And the fruity side of this beer, Galena was the hop, that's it. Just came into my head there, yeah. So yeah, I've got a feeling there might be a bit of Galena in this one, or a little bit of Chinook or something like that. So yeah, Galena and Williamette are the two American hops that are very popular for these Imperial Stouts. But yeah, the fruity side of this beer then, if you go further back on the on that front third of your palate, you can feel at the back, yeah, you've got a wee bit of raisiny character just coming out on top, lots of big kind of juicy plums. There's a bit of a pruny and kind of datey character underneath. Then as you move further forward in this one, you do get a little bit of a more figgy character in the centre of that front third of your palate. But yeah, as you move into the front half of the front third of your tongue, it's absolutely all, it's black currants underneath and an oily sort of blackberry character just sitting on top of it. So yeah, the way that that goes together in this one is really, really nice. Yeah. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I have to say, is really nice, and it strikes me as one of the it strikes me as one of the Imperial pastry stouts that I would really quite like. So I think what we'll do now is we'll have a wee taste of it with a little bit of Manjarsh. So as you can see, Manjarsh, when you bring it out, it is literally just like a big sort of like, it's almost like a kind of hazelnut paste sort of thing. You can see there, it is just a little bit like a really runny sort of caramel syrupy type thing. So if we have a little bit of this, and yeah, like I said, it's like a very, it's almost like a slightly nutty caramel, it's like a liquid caramel fudge, I think is a good way, or liquid vanilla caramel fudge sort of thing with a wee touch of nutty flavour to it. So if you put a bit of that flavour on your palate, then try this beer. Yeah, it actually works really quite nicely. It's smooth, it actually smoothens out the beer really nicely, and it kind of removes a lot of the, of course with this thing you're supposed to just go and take the full thing, but yeah, if you just do it like that, it sort of smoothens out all of the kind of more roasty flavours in the beer, and it pushes the fruity side of the beer out a little bit as well. It takes away a bit of the sharpness of the fruit and just smoothens the whole thing out. So yeah, it's quite an interesting one in that regard actually. So yeah, I have to say, this one a wee bit roasty and toastier than your Manjarsh is going to be, but I spilt a bit of it on the wee table. But yeah, it's going to give you a little bit, it does certainly give you some of the same brown sugary flavours that you'd expect. And of course, remember, Manjarsh is like a specific treat, it's not a particular brand, so there's lots of different types of this one. So maybe the Manjarsh they've used in this one is a bit toastier or something like that than the actual Manjarsh that I'm just trying there. But yeah, all in all, if you actually drink this beer with Manjarsh, it's pretty nice as well. Let's just round off the tasting though with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So for me, this beer, it's quite interesting. This beer, I'd say it's maybe top end of, I'd say it's top end of mid-bodied, maybe bottom end of full-bodied. Carbonation is quite smooth in this one. It's actually quite clean in a lot of ways. So yeah, it's quite a clean beer, this one. And of course, Chile, very good water quality. You've got the Andes right there, mountains and things like that. Yeah, very clean quality water. As a Scot, I'm particularly sensitive to that. It's one thing you notice in the Scottish beers a lot. They just feel very, very clean, and this one is showing that as well. And it's interesting too, the mouthfeel isn't too thick. When this one had wheat in the malt base, I thought it might have come across as being a little bit kind of thicker in a sense, but it's actually a very clean mouthfeel you get out of this. In terms of IBUs, maybe about 50? Yeah, maybe about 50 IBUs in this one, but it doesn't blow the head off you in terms of bitterness. Your malt base is a bit drier underneath, smoother in the middle, dry sweetness on top, and then yeah, you've got a lovely little bit of kind of slightly sharper and juicier fruity character to the beer. But all in all, a really interesting one this. Not quite as pastry stout-ish as I was expecting it might be. It is more like an RIS with a bit of sweetness to it. So yeah, but I've noticed that, as I said, about the Chilean breweries. When they say a stout, they want something a bit more roasty. Their beers are very often similar, or the stouts are very often similar to the export sort of stout flavour profile that you'd get. But all in all, a really nice beer, this one, and I'm glad that I got the chance to try this. So yeah, this one was the Manjarsh, a 10% Imperial pastry stout with Manjarsh added into it from Cervecería Szot, or Szot, I'm really not sure how to pronounce that. It looks like it's a Hungarian name, actually, but it's an American guy, of course. So Cervecería Szot from Talagante near Santiago in Chile. Big thank you again to Amanda and Christian for making this review possible. But yeah, until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Cervecería Szot as well, and we will see about returning to these guys at some point in the near future. But I'm pretty sure we probably will go and make an out and about video at this place at some point in the fairly near future. But until the next time, check out my social media, check out Cervecería Szot's social media, and I'll see you guys in another review very, very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and salut.